Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Are we talking about psychology in this spirituality course? Is psychology more practical than spirituality? Nothing is more practical than spirituality. What can the poor psychologist do? He can only relieve the pressure. I'm a psychologist myself, and I practice psychotherapy. And I have this great conflict within me when I have to choose sometimes between psychology and spirituality. I wonder if that makes sense to anybody here. It didn't make sense to me for many years. I'll explain. It didn't make sense to me for many years until I suddenly discovered that people have to suffer enough in a relationship so that they get disillusioned with all relationships. Isn't that a terrible thing to think? They've got to suffer enough in a relationship before they wake up and say, I'm sick of it. There must be a better way of living than depending on another human being. And what was I doing as a psychotherapist? People were coming to me with their relationship problems, with their communication problems, etc. And sometimes what I did was a help. But sometimes, I'm sorry to say, it wasn't, because it kept people asleep. Maybe they should have suffered a little more. Maybe they ought to touch rock bottom and say, I'm sick of it all. It's only when you're sick of your sickness that you'll get out of it. Most people go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist to get relief. I repeat, to get relief, not to get out of it. There's the story of little Johnny, who they say was mentally retarded. But evidently, he wasn't, as you'll learn from this story. Johnny goes to modeling class in his school for special children, and he gets a piece of putty and he's modeling it. He takes a little lump of putty and goes to a corner of the room and he's playing with it. The teacher comes up to him and says, Hi, Johnny. And Johnny says, Hi. And the teacher says, What's that you've got in your hand? And Johnny says, This is a lump of cow dung. The teacher asks, What are you making out of it? He says, I'm making a teacher. The teacher thought, Little Johnny has regressed. So she calls out to the principal, who was passing by the door at that moment, and says, Johnny has regressed. So the principal goes up to Johnny and says, Hi, son. And Johnny says, Hi. And the principal says, What do you have in your hand? And he says, A lump of cow dung. What are you making out of it? And he says, A principal. The principal thinks that this is a case for the school psychologist. Send for the psychologist. The psychologist is a clever guy. He goes up and says, Hi. And Johnny says, Hi. And the psychologist says, I know what you've got in your hand. What? A lump of cow dung. Johnny says, Right. And I know what you're making out of it. What? You're making a psychologist. Wrong. Not enough cow dung. And they called him mentally retarded. The poor psychologists, they're doing a good job. They really are. There are times when psychotherapy is a tremendous help because when you're on the verge of going insane, raving mad, and you're about to become either a psychotic or a mystic. That's what the mystic is, the opposite of the lunatic. Do you know one sign that you've woken up? It's when you are asking yourself, am I crazy or are all of them crazy? It really is. Because we are crazy. The whole world is crazy. Certifiable lunatics. The only reason we're not locked up in an institution is that there are so many of us. So, we're crazy. We're living on crazy ideas about love, about relationships, about happiness, about joy, about everything. We're crazy to the point, I've come to believe, that if everyone agrees on something, you can be sure it's wrong. Every new idea, every great idea, when it first began, was in a minority of one. The man called Jesus Christ, minority of one. Everybody was saying something different from what he was saying. The Buddha, minority of one. Everybody was saying something different from what he was saying. I think it was Bertrand Russell who said, every great idea starts out as a blasphemy. That's well and accurately put. You're going to hear lots of blasphemies during these days. He hath blasphemed. Because people are crazy. They're lunatics. And the sooner you see this, the better for your mental and spiritual health. Don't trust them. Don't trust your best friends. Get disillusioned with your best friends. They're very clever, as you are in your dealings with everybody else, though you probably don't know it. You're so wily and subtle and clever. You're putting on a great act. I'm not being very complimentary here, am I? But I repeat, you want to wake up. You're putting on a great act, and you don't even know it. You think you're being so loving. Ha! Whom are you loving? Even your self-sacrifice gives you a good feeling, doesn't it? I'm sacrificing myself. I'm living up to my ideal. But you're getting something out of it, aren't you? You're always getting something out of everything you do until you wake up. So there it is, step one. Realize that you don't want to wake up. It's pretty difficult to wake up when you have been hypnotized into thinking that a scrap of old newspaper is a check for $1 million. How difficult it is to tear yourself away from that scrap of old newspaper. Well, there you have it. So what's this all about? Well, basically, what he's saying is, we've all been fooled into thinking that a lot of nonsense is good. A lot of people are in bad relationships that they're afraid to give up because they think that they should value this bad relationship. They are convinced that this bad relationship has value in it, that it's like a check for $1 million, when in reality, it's just a scrap of old newspaper. They think that this is a loving relationship, but they're really not getting anything good out of this relationship. So, these are some crazy ideas in society. I mean, what society tells us love is, and what a good relationship is, and happiness and joy, and things like that. And then he goes on to basically say that, if everybody agrees that something is good, then you can probably be sure that it isn't. And every time a new idea comes in, it's ridiculed, it's blasphemy. It's, if you don't agree with what everybody else is saying, they try to shame you and destroy you, and you're the bad one, you're the wrong one. It's like Jesus. They crucified Jesus. And now, once they figured out what he was talking about, they think he's excellent. Same with Buddha and everybody else who changed the world with their ways of thinking and their ideas. And we see this every day. Every day, if you ever listen to, for instance, a group of women sitting around at lunch or whatever, and they're all complaining about their husbands or their boyfriends and how terrible everything is. Where's the love? How is this a loving relationship? And then they'll go home to this person, and the person is none the wiser, and he thinks that he's got a good relationship going. And maybe, things aren't so bad, but they're not what he thinks. He doesn't realize that this is what's going on every lunch at work when the girls get together and sit down and start talking. He's blissfully going about his business, thinking everything's wonderful. That's one example. Or, these ideas about, oh, eat these granola bars, they're healthy, when one of the worst things that you can put in your body are some of these seed oils, or grains, or sugar. Basically, that's all these granola bars are. It's grain, oils, sugar, jammed together, and people think it's health food. And then they're like, oh, why am I overweight? I eat health food all the time. Or they'll go to Booster Juice and drink one of these healthy, it's juice, it's got to be healthy, when meanwhile it's mostly sugar. Things like this. Or, they'll watch a lot of TV shows or read articles in magazines that are supposed to help them. 5 ways to X. And basically it's just junk. Or how to be happy. Things like this. Anyway, there's probably a lot more to say about this, but this video is kind of getting long. But, love should be, the person wants you to have the best life, and you want the person you love to have the best life. And obviously these two ideas are going to conflict, because sometimes the best for you is not going to be the best for them. And what are you supposed to do? Sacrifice your happiness so that you're not happy to make this person happy, and that's love. So you become unhappy, but this is loving. But shouldn't you be loving towards yourself as well? These are some confusing ideas, but one thing is for sure, if you're going to be in a relationship, there's got to be sacrifice. You can't just have it your way all the time. And should you be alone? Well, I don't think so. We are human beings, and we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to have some alone time, some solitude, but, we're gregarious beings. And that's what the greg in gregarious means, herd. We like to be around others, gregarious. Anyway, some things to think about. Till next time, who loves you, baby? This guy. Hope everything is good. Remember, somebody out there thinks that you're the greatest person in the world. You're their favorite person. And hopefully that gives you some solace in tough times. Anyway, if you have anything you'd like to add, down below, please. Until next time, goodbye. Love you.